Hello. This is how I link up locomotives in my Minecraft roller coaster with mods. Also, this is my first YouTube video where I speak, so you can think of this video as my voice reveal. First, I must explain why I attach minecarts to locomotives in the first place for my roller coaster. This allows for a constant speed to be maintained by the carts, making it much easier to predict where the carts will be at a certain time. This constant speed can be adjusted by throttle tracks, allowing me to speed up, slow down, or even reverse the train. Another advantage to this is that I can keep the train slow on abandoned track types. If it goes too fast, it could derail. But there are disadvantages. When I want the train to jump across a gap using launch tracks, I first must separate each cart of the train in some way, send each cart individually across the jump section, and relink the carts in some way. Second, if I want the train to reverse course, I must ensure that the locomotive is returned to a forward facing when the reversing area is done. Third, the train cannot take U-corners that are 3 blocks wide for less. Lastly, a train without a rider can pass into unloaded junks and be returned to a preloaded state, which can leave stray carts or runaway locomotives on the track when the chunks reload. This is because one of the 2 carts could get caught some distance from the other while the latter is unloaded, which breaks the established connection. To remedy the last problem, I add a road spike cart. The road spike cart keeps the chunk it is in, plus surrounding chunks, loaded. This allows the train to remain loaded and intact as it travels. I can place it behind the player's cart, but there is no reason not to place it between the player and the locomotive. It has the extra advantage of making empty minecarts and make some progress when it passes near them. Now we need to familiarize ourselves with the different types of rails. I will be using simplified graphics of each rail. We can simply skim over many of them, as well as a few other essential items. Control rails push minecarts in the direction they point. Throttle rails modify the speed of locomotives that pass over. Decoupler rails disconnect minecarts from each other. Auto-coupler rails make minecarts automatically connect to the next minecart they bump into. The fan will blow objects in the direction it points. Cart dispensers simply place minecarts onto nearby tracks. Rail junctions have an active and inactive track. Minecarts will always take the active track if they can. Now we can get into the fun stuff of the video, which is also the highlight. We'll be showing you a system that I use to join locomotives to the player's minecart. First, I will be showing you a video, then I will show you a diagram of how it works. First explaining the diagram, and then running the diagram on its own so that you can see how it works. Finally, I will show you the video again. Now I will move on to the diagrams. First, you will be guided through them, then you will be taken on an unguided tour. The placer diagram is pretty simple. It's just a straight track. There also is the second diagram, which shows the yard area, which includes the track the player is sitting on. There is nothing but empty track in between the 2 diagrams, so I don't need to show that to you. I will pause at any critical moments that need explaining. Alrighty, we have to explain stuff. The minecart passes over a detector track and then is stopped by the lock track. The detector track is linked to a wireless transmitter, which does some stuff at the placer area. Before we leave to investigate, I want to mention that the purple blocks to the right are locomotive detectors that send a signal when a locomotive is near them. These are used to release the minecart from the lock track. The black square on the left is a generic block to prevent the locomotive from leaving the track and getting stuck off-rail. Lastly, these diagrams are not to scale. And we still aren't done with explaining, even as we transition to the dispenser area. We have some explaining as to how we ensure the dispensers never run out of minecarts. And we have hoppers and command blocks to thank. Let's take a side diagram of the dispenser area rather than a top-down one. The cyan outline triangles represent the hoppers, and the tan boxes are command blocks. Hoppers and cart dispensers can store items similar to chests. Hoppers can also push items into other containers, and can suck items from above, whether they are in containers or lying on top of the hop. If allowed to run many times, these hoppers will run dry, and no more locomotives can spawn. And this is where the command blocks come in. The command blocks spawn locomotives and carts as dropped items, right above the mouths of the hoppers. Every time the dispensers are activated, the command blocks are also activated and spawn the associated items. We are now facing down over the tracks again, and we are just about to exit this diagram area for good. There are a few things that happen just before then, though. First, the World Spike cart passes over the auto coupler track and reaches the locomotive, and the two connect. This is aided by the fact that locomotives lose speed faster than other carts, as well as the locomotive being inactive and therefore in a coasting state. The locomotive then passes over a slow throttle track, which changes its throttle speed but does not activate it. The track with the green diamond is next, and it starts the locomotive up. Lastly, the locomotive hits the full throttle track and hits the gas, leaving this placer area for good. We have left the most complicated section of the station and will never need to return to it. From here on out, explanations are only sporadic. The trainlet passes over a decoupler track and is separated. The locomotive overpowers the fan, but the World Spike cart doesn't and is forced backwards. The locomotive starts to reverse. Simple for this one. The locomotive bumps into the player's cart and connects with it. The World Spike cart bumps into the player's cart and connects with it. The train is now one. The train pulls out of the station, prevented from relocking by a one-way detector track. We have finished with all of the explanations that you need to know about this. I will now be putting you on the unguided tour of the diagram. I will not be speaking for the remainder of the video.